Welcome to Entrepreneurs. To kick off our 2019 season, we have a three-part series exploring how to start and grow a business. I'm Jack Delosa, and Entrepreneurs starts now.
This is Entrepreneurs.
Welcome to Entrepreneurs. Tonight we're going back to square one, talking to successful entrepreneurs about how to start a business and become an entrepreneur. Joining me on the panel are Colin Kinner, founder of Startup On-Ramp, founder and CEO of Safety Culture, Luke Ania, co-founder of Motherhood app, Millie Zinner, and Jake DeMarco, founder and CEO of Spare Workspace. We're going to start with Colin, focusing on some of the key questions that aspiring entrepreneurs need to explore before starting a venture. Colin, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
You've flown down from Brisbane for this evening. Thank you for doing that. We appreciate it. Talk to us about Startup On-Ramp. Where did the idea come from? Why is it necessary?
So Startup On-Ramp's a training and mentoring program for early-stage startup founders.
Yep.
And having been involved in the startup scene in Australia for more than a decade and having worked with lots of startup founders, it seemed to me that we were making a lot of the same mistakes again and again. And so having run incubators and accelerators and early-stage funds that invested in startups, I kept seeing the same things going wrong and leading to failure of these companies. So it occurred to me that it would be really useful to have a crash course on how to start and to get it right. At the same time, I see lots of people who've got ideas for startups, and maybe they're working in a corporate job, and they would be awesome startup founders, but they never start. And I think for a lot of them, it's because they don't know where to start. So Startup On-Ramp is a crash course on how to start. It runs over 12 weeks. It gives a series of workshops, and we bring in successful entrepreneurs, investors, subject matter experts, and we mentor the group with the objective of getting them to a point where they can go and be successful as startup founders.
That's a fascinating 12-week window to get visibility and insight into. What are the main challenges that they come up against in that first 12 weeks? I imagine it's quite intensive.
The first thing is to be critical of your idea.
Yes.
Right? To be able to step back and be dispassionate and say, all right, I've got an idea for a business. It might be a bad idea.
Which is so hard for an entrepreneur.
Yeah. And, you know, it's never for me or anyone else to say your idea is terrible, you should not pursue it. Yeah. It's for them to go and understand by talking to customers. So the classic thing you see entrepreneurs do, particularly first-time startup founders, is they'll go and spend 100 grand and they'll get some developer to build a product and they'll keep it a secret and then they'll launch the product. And crickets. So a big part of what we focus on is saying, go and understand the problem, interview customers, ask them really good questions, and then work out what product you should build.
And is that, because there's obviously a balance, right? Entrepreneurs are quite independently minded, know what they want, can charge at an idea, but also need to be considered and thoughtful and analyse the risks and determine, you know, whether there is a consumer market demand or not. How do you encourage them to sort of straddle those two worlds, if you like?
Yeah, look, it's challenging. If someone's very good at selling and they come from a sales background, they tend to go into those discussions selling. And these people need to be told or reminded that you need to go and listen. You need to go and understand the problem and find out whether your idea actually solves it. Then you get the people who aren't good at selling, and they're more of the product people. They need to be encouraged to go and have the conversations and be able to get in front of a customer and be able to say, well, this is what we're doing, and test their thinking.
I like that. They are two very distinct, different people. So talk to us about some of the success stories that you guys have seen through Startup On-Ramp.
Yeah, so it's early days for us. We've been running for about 2 years, but already we've seen a few companies come through the program that I think are going to be hugely successful. One in particular, a company called SurePact, which is a software tool for project managers who are managing large infrastructure projects. And it was started by a lady called Megan Avard, who has an extensive background in project management and managing large, complex infrastructure projects. And she realized that you could actually save a lot of time and save a lot of money by more closely managing the riskiest parts of the project. And so what her software tool does is basically identify the riskiest parts and help you, if you've got $1 billion spend, help you to save a 10 million or a 50 million or $100 million overrun.
Wow.
So they're on their way to greatness.
Right. And Colin, startup statistics when it comes to early stage businesses are often quite daunting. What are they? How does it look these days?
It is daunting. We know for a fact that more than 90% of startups fail. So, do you want to do a startup? most of the ones that fail for predictable and avoidable reasons. So I think if you said, look, let's short-circuit that learning curve and not make all of those rookie mistakes, the odds of success are actually pretty good.
Right.
Particularly if you have a founder who has deep insights. So what I've seen is that people who come from industry and who have some experience, and there's this phrase of marinating in a problem. So if they've marinated in a problem for 5 or 10 years, they deeply understand it, and I think they've got a really good chance of solving it. And I think that's one of the things that we lack in Australia, is an understanding that actually if you have a really good problem to go and tackle, and you get a little bit of help along the way, you actually have a really good chance of succeeding.
I love that, marinating in a problem. It's so incredibly important. You said that they fail for predictable reasons. Can you give us 2 or 3 of the most predictable reasons that you see?
Sure, there's lots. So the classic one is building products that nobody wants.
Yeah.
And so you see people who will spend their own money and they'll keep it a secret, and then they'll launch it and nobody buys it. Related to that is the concept where you see a lot of aspiring startup founders with an idea, but they're very protective of it. They don't want to tell anyone in case someone might steal it. And in 20 years of working with startups, I've not seen a single instance of someone stealing another person's idea.
Me neither.
So ideas are cheap, right? And if someone else is better positioned to go and pursue your idea and make a success of it, well, then they should do it. And it says something about you as the founder if you're not the right person. So that's another really classic one. Probably the third one would be people trying to raise money from investors before they've got any evidence that there's a business. You see this all the time, people pitching really not much more than an idea to an investor, saying, can you give me some money so I can go and build a product and then give it to some customers and see whether it's any good. Investors don't do that. They invest in businesses where you've got some early traction, some early customers. So we, in our program, we work very closely with the founders to say, let's help you get that early traction. Let's help you sign your first few customers, because customers are the only truth.
Colin Kinner, founder of Startup On-Ramp, thank you so much for joining us on Entrepreneurs.
It was a pleasure.
We appreciate it. Coming up after the break, we speak to Luke Ania, whose tech startup Safety Culture is solving a truly global problem.
You're watching Entrepreneurs. Welcome back to Entrepreneurs.
Welcome back to Entrepreneurs. We are talking to Luke Ania about his insights on building a business in 2019. Luke's company has gone from starting in a garage in Townsville to employing over 300 people. This is a great Australian success story. Luke, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Jack. Pleasure to be here.
Now, you have a very interesting background. You worked as an amateur boxing promoter to a private investigator, and now you've built a business that has raised almost $100 million, employs 300 people. Talk to us about that journey.
Well, I keep getting the boxing promoter tag, but in reality I did that once living in my car when I was young.
I'd claim it if I were you. I think it's cool.
Young and desperate, but I think it probably has served me more than anything else I've done. So it's taught me that all I need is the shirt on my back and to go out and have a go. So yeah, but it's been crazy. It seems like only yesterday that we were in the garage, just a couple of us, trying to build an app for people to be able to use and do checklists and inspections on in the workplace. And today, that's used to collect around 450 million checks a year across the world. And we've built this incredible platform now that lots of people use every day.
What were some of the key challenges you came up against in the early years?
Well, it wasn't just the early years, mate. They're still going every day. So, I think trying to find great people. We're in Townsville, in regional Australia.
That is amazing.
Not exactly the epicenter of the tech world. And yet, I literally went out to the university and said, do you know anyone out here that could build an app? And fortunately, Alan, who dropped out of uni, working at the youth detention centre doing IT, he said, I'll have a go. And, the first app we built wasn't much good, but luckily the second one wasn't too bad.
That is amazing. I didn't know that story. And obviously there's been phenomenal growth since then. Success is always multifaceted, but to what sort of keys do you attribute the growth and the success of the business to?
I think focusing on the customer problem that we're solving more than anything else. We've just, constantly thought about that every single day. How can we solve this better than anyone else? And not just from our point of view, but how do we validate that in the market and continue to test our ideas and keep pushing ourselves? So I think that pursuit of customer centricity is really the key.
Has it been more difficult to hold on to that and nurture that as a core value as the team has grown?
Yeah, 100%. Obviously, you know, when there's only 5 of us or 8 of us, we're all part of every conversation.
Yeah.
And every phone call we make, everyone else can hear it. Now we're in, you know, multiple buildings in multiple cities, and so it does get harder. But you've just got to be able to, you know, bring in a little bit of process and hopefully, you know, scale it without bringing in too much that you sort of suffocate it. And so, yeah, we manage that challenge every day, I think, as every growing company does.
Another cool project you were involved in, you funded a documentary about startups called The New Hustle.
Oh, yes.
Talk to us a little bit about that. What was the inspiration for you to get involved in that and fund that project?
Yeah, I think, you know, getting asked to share the story a lot, and you know, I know when I was younger, I always wanted to hear what other people are doing and sort of help build the belief about what's possible. And so I thought, well, you know, if I can, you know, do this, then anyone else can. And I've often got crazy ideas like a lot of people, and I think sometimes people struggle to see the difference between having the idea and actually doing something, and there is no magic formula. You just got to get out and do it. So The New Hustle was really, you know, the story of 3 founders who wanted to solve a problem that they cared about, and we just kept getting up every day and doing something about it.
From where you're sitting now, I mean, you must have a really good vantage point on what it takes to become a successful entrepreneur. You know, this is an episode where we're talking to budding entrepreneurs and early stage founders. What do you reckon are the key characteristics that one should be trying to embody in the early years to become a successful business owner?
Look, I think, you know, going after getting traction and validating your product or your idea as fast as possible is the key. You know, we've all got great ideas, but often the first idea is not the one that actually works. And so you want to validate that as quickly as possible. I think that's the key, because once you get traction, once you get people using it, then you're in a position to be able to iterate from there.
Right, right. Now, safety culture has also been very successful at raising funds, as I mentioned earlier. $98 million state, I believe the last round was 60. What have you learned from, you know, those processes of raising different tranches of capital throughout the journey?
You know, stay true to what you believe in and why you started the business. I think it's easy to get distracted. And it's easy for people to be able to, you know, offer big shiny sort of checks and things and say, you know, come this way or go that way. We've had customers do that as well, who want us to build specific things that just didn't fit. And so whether it's a customer or whether it's, you know, investors, you've got to be very clear about what you will and won't stand for, and then you know, obviously you get better at articulating that vision as time goes on. And so I think, you know, staying true to what you set out to do is pretty important.
I think that's a really interesting point. Might just hone in on it a little bit. How have you saying no is incredibly difficult for entrepreneurs to do typically. How have you developed the discipline to say, no, we're not going to do that project. There might be money on the table, but we're going to forego it at this stage, or, you know, this investor wants to come in on these terms. No, that's not right for. How have you developed the discipline to say no?
I think, you know, playing out the scenario of if we got led down a certain path and we were taking money from a customer and building for them, then what would we end up being? Ultimately, we'd end up being a company that works for them or serving them, and that doesn't fit with our vision and what we're trying to do. And so we want to make every worker in the world able to work safely and also maintain a high quality in what they do. And so that was much bigger than any one company. And as hard as it was sometimes to say no, you know, when we're in the garage and literally had big US companies offering us, you know, $500,000 and things like that to build stuff for them, it would have taken us down that path, which would be very different to today. And I just knew we didn't want to do that.
Incredibly admirable. And just quickly, mate, to finish up, number one piece of advice for those starting a business?
Look, just focus on you know, helping the customer, and then just get out there and do it. I think too often we wait for some magic formula to come along. It just doesn't happen that way. You just got to start and then just keep working from there. We've all got that same voice in our head saying it's a crazy idea. Just got to ignore it and do it anyway.
Absolutely. Luke and Nia, thank you so much for coming on Entrepreneurs. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Jack.
Thanks,
nice to be
mate.
here.
Appreciate it. Coming up, we are going to take a break, and then we come back. We are talking to 2 founders of early stage businesses and what they learned along their journey.
You're watching Entrepreneurs. Welcome back to Entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Welcome back to Entrepreneurs. We are joined by founders Jake DeMarco and Millie Zinner. We are going to start with Millie. Millie, you're a couple of years into your journey of building motherhood.
That's right.
I love this concept. Talk to us about what inspired you to get it started.
Okay, so Motherhood is the marketplace to book flexible and affordable childcare from mums and minders in your neighbourhood. And so what's really exciting about this is that not only are families being able to, find amazing childcare on the app, they can actually also help out other families and earn additional income. So Alice, my business partner, and I, we're at a point where we were discussing our futures and all of our friends were having kids, and we could see that it was incredibly hard. Being a parent is not easy.
Yeah.
And we could also see that our childcare solutions weren't evolving. We believed that we'd lost our village. So we knew that we needed to build something where we could actually connect people. We knew that there were people that needed help, and we knew that there were people that really wanted to help, and they just needed a platform to connect. And so that's how Motherhood came about.
And you were right. So talk to us, your journey is an interesting one. Were you an entrepreneur before that? And what was the kind of paradigm shift moment for you where you said, yeah, I'm an entrepreneur, I've got it, this is the path I'm
walking? Well, in all honesty, I came from like an acting background and producing, so I was used to being thrown in the deep end, but I'd never worked in the tech space. So I definitely had that moment of absolutely freaking out and having that imposter syndrome and thinking, who am I to think that I can tackle this absolutely huge problem that we have? It's not just in Australia, it's a worldwide problem, this huge childcare crisis. But I was so passionate about it. And then I started, I guess, changing my perception of you don't need to have a necessarily tech background. If you can surround yourself with amazing industry experts, if you are passionate about the problem, you're a learn-it-all, you just constantly want to learn and grow within the industry, I just thought that could be a super inspiring story to maybe other entrepreneurs who were a bit scared, but you know what, they actually just jumped straight in and just gave it their all.
Yeah, it is incredibly inspiring.
Yeah.
Talk to us about where you are in your growth curve at the moment, because I understand there's a capital raising on the horizon, and a component of that is a crowdfunding campaign as well. Talk to us about some of those things.
So this is super exciting time. So we have built a platform that we have such incredible passionate users, and the great thing about crowdfunding, we are doing an equity crowdfunding raise, which allows our passionate users to now become invested advocates who truly want to get the word out. And because it's a marketplace, it's exactly what you want. You want passionate users to help spread the word. So that's why. So we're actually doing this through virtual. Our platform's virtual. We have it on our website at the moment, which is motherhoodapp.com. And it's a really exciting time because that's how our product's growing. It's growing all via word of mouth. But if we can start pumping some money into it, we can really focus on the tech, because we've got some amazing features we are just about to launch. And it's going to take it from this to this. It's
exciting times.
Yeah.
This is good.
Super exciting times.
This is good. Now, I'm going to come back to you with another question in a moment. But Jake, you're obviously founder of Spare Workspace. It's the Airbnb for meeting rooms and desk space. Talk to us about this business.
Yeah, spot on. So Spare Workspace is an online marketplace that allows businesses to really easily share their meeting rooms, training rooms or desk space by the hour or the day. And those that are booking the space, everyone from solopreneurs and freelancers all the way up to multinational corporates that just really simply need on-demand space by the hour of the day. And we've had such an incredible journey so far, and we've helped so many businesses of all sizes book space all around the country.
What motivated you to look at this problem and say, yep, that's the market, that's the product we want to go into?
Well, funny enough, the problem came from my own problem. I discovered this huge need for on-demand space, and at the same time I realised there's a lot of empty commercial space out there that's simply not being utilised. And I thought, there's got to be a better way, right? The typical entrepreneur thinking. And I started looking at ways in which we can leverage technology and innovation to utilise that asset. And at the same time, this booming market of flexible workspace, it just made absolute sense.
Right. Where are you guys in your growth journey now?
So we've been in market for just under 18 months and we've experienced incredible growth.
Yeah.
On the back of that growth, we've just closed a significant round at the end of last year.
Well done.
From Sydney Angels and Brisbane Angels. And really, we're just concentrating on this year on just doubling down on that.
Yep. A question I'm interested to ask both of you. Is there anything, and if so, what is it that you would have done differently along your journey? Millie, we might start with you.
Yeah, actually, I was thinking about that, and I was, as a founder, it can be incredibly tough on the bank account, and so I was thinking, sometimes I think, wouldn't it be great to have raised at the very early stage of the business, because we had validation, it was a world first, no one was really connecting parents with local parents for childcare. However, I actually think now, reflecting on that, it was actually a blessing. It forced us to get creative, it forced us to quit our jobs, be nannies, truly understand the problem. I've worked in this space for 20 years as well, and so I was just like, I actually think bootstrapping was probably a blessing in disguise. So, yeah, I think you've got to understand the problem firsthand and, yeah.
Address it. Worked out really well.
Yeah, exactly. Really well.
Jake, anything you do differently?
I think for me, I was so focused on developing this world-class product that meant that we delayed our launch for a couple of months. And I think in hindsight, I would have launched a lot sooner and would have learned a lot sooner as well. So I think for me, that's probably my key lesson is developing an MVP, getting it out there, talking to customers really earlier on, and using those learnings to sort of reiterate and become a better product or service.
100%. And other than talking to customers in that instance, another question for the two of you, what hacks have you learnt along the way? Because this isn't your first business either. What special hacks can you share with the audience?
I think a lot of entrepreneurs are so focused on innovation and automation and so forth that they sort of look away from some of just those core simple principles of doing things manually in the first couple of months to truly understand what your customers' problems are and developing a right solution. And so I think fundamentally, don't reinvent the wheel, because sometimes the wheel just simply doesn't need to be reinvented. So.
However,
True words have never been spoken.
I don't know, I think in saying that as well, you can be a bit cheeky and try different things. Like, for instance, last year we did a speed dating event for mums and minders, and that's really not been before, where you could actually interview a whole room full of potential sitters, and it's fun. You could have a glass of champagne, bring your friends, and so I think it's great to also maybe think outside the box as well, get inspired by how maybe other industries do things. And then I was also thinking another great thing is just surrounding yourself by the industry's best, or just a really good support network. We have just got Tim Fung, founder of Airtasker. He's joined our board, which is exciting times. Yeah, huge win, and he is just amazing. He's helping in so many ways, but I just think, yeah, having, not necessarily, I always say it doesn't just take a village to raise a child, but it takes a village to run a business, and you just need to be around amazing people.
Both metaphors incredibly appropriate in your business.
Yes.
What drives you as an entrepreneur, Millie?
Oh, I think from early days we were always driven by enabling or creating a world where women were empowered to be able to fulfill their dreams, and be able to thrive in the workplace and at home. And that's still very much to this very day that I think it's so important. We need more flexibility, we need more support, and so that drives us every day.
Super powerful.
Yeah.
Jake, what drives you as an entrepreneur?
I think for me, I just love innovation and tech, and coupled with just wanting to make the world a better place and leveraging tech and innovation to do that. And I think that was my driver for Spare Workspace. I identified a huge problem that people suffer every single day, and thought I came up with a pretty nifty solution. And I guess helping those people and those businesses, that's a driver for me. It still exists today. And that's what we do at Spare Workspace every day. We help people get on with their job.
Very quickly, final question for the two of you. How have you set your goals for 2019, and what are your key focuses? Jake, we'll start with you.
So first and foremost, I always start at the finish line. I work out where we want to be and what we're going to achieve, and then develop the strategies and initiatives around that.
Yes. Key focuses for you this year?
Just go, go, go. Don't breathe, just move. And get more listings. We have so much demand, and we need more listings all around Australia. So if anyone has a meeting room, list it on our website.
Don't breathe, just move. I think that's a new entrepreneurial rally cry. Millie, key focuses for you?
We finished finished the year with having a really strong product roadmap, and we are pumping all of our energy into our tech, which we've got these like super exciting features that we're about to launch. And also we are going to start introducing employee benefits to all the big companies or even smaller companies to allow to really focus on that flexible support network that you may need as a parent. So you can get to that last minute meeting, or if you need a sleep in, you can post a job on the app and you can have that nice sleep in that a lot of parents don't have these days.
Yes.
So yeah.
Millie and Jake, thank you both so much for coming on Entrepreneurs. That was a really worthwhile discussion. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. That's all we have time for tonight. Next week, we are talking crunching numbers, looking at business fundamentals, cash flow and revenue. You can watch us anytime on Foxtel Go and on the catch-up section of yourmoney.com.au. I'm Jack Delosa. Good night.